Today we finally get to start our Honda CB200T. I mean, maybe. Hello everyone and welcome back to Vintage Speedworks. My name is Marco. Today we're finally trying to get our Honda CB200 up and running. Now, it's been a long time coming. We have this bike all put back together and it's looking pretty good. Now, there are a few things that we need to do before we get it running, and that is add gas to the gas tank, of course, make sure we don't have any leaks. Then we need to check our carburetors and make sure that we add our fuel filters to the carburetors. And then finally, we need to install the battery. Now, I will say I wasn't able to get the battery in time for this video. However, I am going to hook it up to my boat so that we can have a battery to try to get this bike started. Now, one of the things that I did notice that I kind of wanted to let you all know about is the fact that I went ahead and installed this clutch cable. Now, when I installed the clutch cable and I tried to go through the gears to use the clutch, I realized that the clutch is just not clutching. So I'm not sure what the issue is just yet. I need to make sure that I can get the bike running so that we can figure out what the issue is. At that point, it might be that our clutch is stuck, or that there needs to be maybe some adjustment to the clutch, or that the clutch is just not any good anymore. So we need to check on that. But today we're going to go ahead and add some gas, make sure we don't have any leaks around our petcock, and then we're going to make sure that we add our fuel filters to our fuel line, and then try to get this bike up and running. So follow along and let's try to get it going. All right, so we have our gas tank here, but before we put any gas into our gas tank, I want to make sure that I mock up my fuel filters. Now, my fuel filters go here. I already installed the fuel line. I'm using Gates 3/16 inch fuel line. That's the one that I like to use. I think it fits snug and it works really well. It's very thin as well, so I like to use that one. You really should be using, I think, 1/4 inch or the original Honda fuel line, but I like to use this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some fuel filters here. I'm gonna go ahead and mock them up. But before we connect them to the carburetor and we actually let gas pass through to our carburetor, I wanna make sure that I install the fuel filters, because that will ensure that I know that I don't have any leaks on this side where the fuel tank is and the petcock is. And then after that, once I don't have any leaks, then I can open that up and let gas go into my carburetors. Now, before I let gas go into my carburetors, I want to turn the engine a couple of times so that I can get some oil circulating inside the engine. The reason I want to do that before I put gas into the bowls of the carburetor is because I don't want the engine to be sucking in any gas into the engine and causing, you know, any wet spark plugs or anything like that. That will kind of keep us from starting the bike. So what I want to do is I want to check on that first. Once I turn the engine a couple of times, then I can go back and connect them to the carburetor so that we can let fuel go into the carburetor bowls, and then we can try to get the bike up and running. So let's go ahead and mock up the fuel filters first, and then we can move on to the next step. All right, so we have our fuel line installed, and as you can see, I went ahead and routed it to our carburetors, one on the other side over there, one here, and then there's 2 outputs from the petcock. And I believe one is for the reserve, so that if one of your cylinders goes out, you know that you have, you're low on gas, and then you can activate the reserve, and then that'll even out the flow to both carburetors again. I believe that's how it works. I'm not too sure, but I think that's how it works on some motorcycles. So I'm going to go ahead and add the filter. The filter that I'm using is this Primeline, just regular inline fuel filter. This is meant for 1/4 inch hose. Now, again, I like to use this Gates 3/16. It fits snug on here, but it's gonna work just fine. And these are just clear, fuel filters that go in line. You wanna make sure that you put them the right way. There's a little arrow here of the flow of the gas, so we're going to put them like in this orientation right here. And I want to put them in a way that I can probably get them away from the head, because that gets pretty hot. So I can either put them down here and maybe attach a small zip tie in between the float, bowl little lever here or little bracket here so that they're kind of out of the way and they look pretty clean. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to, oh, and by the way, the part number for these fuel filters is 7-02357-1. So I'm gonna go ahead and install them right here. And I just have to measure to see where I need to make the cut. Now the fuel line should go somewhere to about right there. So I'm going to just look to see where I need to make my cut. So I think if we can get our filters right here and then we can have that go there, I think that might be okay. Or even, we might even be able to get away with putting them a little bit closer. We still need to make this loop up here. So I don't want to put it too close, but I don't want to put it too low. So yeah, I think we can cut the fuel line, this fuel line right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my pliers here and I'll make the first cut. And hopefully we only have to cut once. All right, so there we go. And now the flow of this is going this way. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of lubricant. All right, so I'm gonna add a bit of WD-40 just to the entrance of the hose there. Maybe a little bit right here, just to kind of be able to slide it in there. Again, this is meant for larger hose, but with a little persuasion, it goes in there tight, and you don't really have to use at this point clamps really, because this hose fits kind of snug on there. Again, everybody can do it differently. I'm not saying you should do it like this, but I've had good results with that. So I think that looks good. And now we need to match the other fuel filter. So we'll go ahead and check to see where the other one should go. We can kind of match them up so they can be kind of close together. That looks like we need to make the cut right about here. So I'll go ahead and just cut my hose right there. Now, as you notice, I left them kind of long because I really want to kind of curve them where they kind of fall naturally into place. You don't want to have them kind of bending or anything like that. Because that could cause some blockages in your fuel. But you also don't want them, you know, too close to like for example, the head or the motor. You want to kind of have them in a place where they're not going to, you know, burn or anything like that. Now I'm really bummed about the battery because I was hoping I would get the battery on time, but I wasn't able to get the battery. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to use an external battery to try to turn on the bike, but I guess that's okay. We're only trying to get it running. I think in the next video, we can really maybe make some time to take it out on the road if we get to have it running the way it's supposed to. Now, I will say it could be that our bike might need some clutch work. If that's the case, that's okay. I'm still gonna go ahead and order the clutch cover just to check everything, you know, over and make sure that everything is working good. If we see that it needs clutches or like a new clutch, then we'll go ahead and order that as well, so we can get that running properly. But that's okay. I mean, working on these bikes, you never know what's gonna happen, and that's just the way it goes. All right, so I think we can get a nice, clean kind of curve here to the first carburetor if we cut the line right here. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. I'm just gonna clip it right there. So now that we have the two filters in place, You know, we're trying to get the lines to kind of fit where they're going to sit. And I think that looks pretty good. I don't want to put it in just yet because, again, I need to make sure that we don't have any leaks over here. So I need to see if gas is going to come out of these two fuel filters. But I'm going to mock it up anyway so I can make the other cut. So if that sits kind of like right there, then my other fuel filter should sit somewhere around right there. I think that would look nice. So my cut for the other one would have to be somewhere around right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that. Okay, so I have this curve that's gonna go there, and then I have this other one that's gonna go underneath, and it's gonna connect there. Once it's connected, it should look a lot cleaner. But for now, let's go ahead and test these out and make sure that we don't have any leaks here. All right, so here we go. So I have a small container here that I placed under the fuel filters just to catch any gas if we see any gas coming out. That way we can kind of close the petcock so we can figure out what position is what. Now, my biggest concern is that we get leaks coming out of here, the bottom of the petcock. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the gas tank now. I like this little boat style gas cap on the CB200Ts. I think they're pretty cool. And I'm gonna try to pour some gas in here and hopefully get the gas so that we don't have to fill the whole gas tank to get some gas here. Now, I'm not too sure if there's a passover here or not in this back portion of the gas tank, but if there is, that's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pouring my gas into the bike and hope for the best. By the way, this is non-ethanol gas that I'm using. All right. So there's a little bit of gas in there. I'm gonna go around and check for any leaks. All right. I don't see any so far. Smell some gas. Now, I didn't pour that much in there, but I'm gonna pour a little bit more. Let's see what happens. Okay. If I do get a leak, I wanna make sure I can stop the leak before it gets to the point where I won't be able to stop it, but that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of twist this. There's nothing coming out of the petcock yet, so, oh, there we go. Okay, I see one of them dripping. Okay, so we got, oh, yep, we got a big leak. Okay, that stops it right there. So what is going on here? So it looks as though the leak is actually not coming from, it's not coming from the top of the petcock where I thought it might have leaked from, or it could leak from. It's actually coming from the lever itself. So we just might have a bad seal there. Although it doesn't seem to be leaking. Maybe it's, yeah, it's leaking a little bit from there. So we might have a bad seal there. Let me bring it closer so you can see what's actually going on here. All right, so here's what's happening. I don't have any leaks at the top or the base of the petcock, which I'm pretty stoked about. That's pretty good. However, this valve right here, the one that kind of, you know, diverts the gas going to these fuel lines, is the one leaking. So let me show you what it does. So at this point, it's not leaking, it's holding the gas in, or it's stopping the gas. But when you try to move it, notice how it just starts leaking out through there. And that's not good. It does come out of the lines here at the bottom, so you can see that the flow does go to the filter, but it just starts to gush out from the valve. So that's not good. If I turn it up all the way up, it does flow gas, but it's leaking through there. So instead of actually maybe trying to fix this, this bolt is actually stripped. I should be able to remove it, but instead of trying to fix this, I might just order a brand new petcock. They're about 15 bucks, so I should have done that from the beginning, but I didn't, so that's on me. But I know that it's working now, so you know, I know that the tank is not leaking, which is pretty good. And what this means is that I can actually connect these lines and try to fill up the float bowls just enough to see if we can get the bike running. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But before I do that, I'm gonna try to turn the motor over a couple of times to try to get some oil up into the head and the engine case kind of moving around. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so like I mentioned before, I still don't have the battery for the motorcycle. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to jump start it to see if we can get our bike running. And like I mentioned, I'm not trying to, here we go. I'm not trying to get the bike fully up and running. Right now, I'm simply trying to get the oil to circulate throughout the engine case. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the off position. We don't wanna have it in the run position. We're gonna put it in the off position so there's no spark going to the carburetor or to the spark plugs rather. And then I'm going to try to crank it so before we have gas in the carburetors, that way you know, we don't run the risk of gas going into the engine. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a couple of tries. Okay, that sounds pretty good. I do hear a lot of compression on the exhaust, so I think that that's a good sign. All right, so that should have gotten the oil to kind of circulate in there. Okay, good. All right. So, okay, so I think what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and connect those fuel lines to the gas tank so that I can get some fuel to run into the carburetors. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Just gonna add a little bit of WD-40 to these lines. This one was the one that went here to the top. Now, like I mentioned, I did try to get the bike running before, and I was successful actually. So I know my points should be correct. I don't remember if I moved them afterwards, but they should be correct in the correct firing order. And I wired everything the same way, so hopefully, I honestly haven't checked for spark, which I should probably do, but instead of checking for spark, let's just try it, and if it runs, it runs. So there we go. I connected that one, and now I can connect the other one. Again, these lines kind of do stretch out a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not a lot that they're stretching. But once you get them on there, they're pretty good on there. And you can add, you know, some clamps if you want to, but I really don't think that you need them. Especially not with this type of line. This type of line actually gets kind of soft, or not soft, but it's very malleable. So once you get it on there, it stretches and then it stays like that. So no clamp is needed, honestly. You just have to be careful with the filters because they are a little bit fragile. All right, so I'm gonna grab a rag to put under here so that I don't get any gas into the engine area. And I'm gonna check for flow going into our flow bowls. Now I'm also gonna check these little overflow hoses that go down to the floor from the carburetors. If I see fuel coming out of those, I just need to tap the fuel bowls a little bit just to get them unstuck, and we should be in good shape. All right, so here we go. I'm just gonna stuff a rag here in the bottom, and I'm gonna see if I can get enough fuel to go into the carbs just so we can get a quick start to see if the bike is gonna run. So here we go. I see some flow going to the carbs, not a lot, so it might not be getting enough gas. Let me pour some more gas into this. I got my California approved gas cap. Yeah, right. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna try it again, see if I can see some fuel going here into the carbs. Yeah, I think it already flowed into the carbs. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's already filled out the carbs. Now I don't know for certain, but I went ahead and turned it off. The flow stopped. I do see fuel inside of the filters here. I'm gonna go ahead and say that that might work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and assume that the float bowls are full. I'm gonna put the bike in the run position so we can get some spark going to our spark plugs and see if it'll run. All right, so safety first. Gonna put our gas can all the way back there just in case we get any sparks. I'm gonna put my switch into the run position, and yeah, I think we're ready to go. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a crank and start. All right, here we go. Okay, maybe we need to put that into choke. I think choke is down. Okay. Let me open up the carbs to see if I have any gas in the carbs. So the way I'm gonna do this is I'm just gonna open up the float bowl and see if anything leaks out of the float bowl. And we are absolutely dry. Okay. So there's no gas going there. Yeah, I definitely think we have an issue with, we definitely have an issue here with the petcock there. It's not opening, or it's not letting gas in. Or maybe we have too little gas in our gas tank. All right, so we definitely have an issue with the petcock. It's not letting gas go in, or it's leaking most of the gas through here, and it's not actually sending any gas in to the filters here. I think one of them might be, which is this one. Let me check to see if this one has gas in it. Nope. Okay, so I think we're gonna go to plan B. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove these from here. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to fill up the float bowls just to see if we can get some gas in here. All right, so you probably shouldn't try this at home. Yeah, you probably shouldn't try a lot of the stuff that I do here at home, but I'm gonna go ahead and just, if I can show you all, I'm gonna add a little bit. This one, that should be fine. All right, so I added a little bit of gas to this water bottle here, and I'm gonna go ahead and cap it, and then I'm gonna use this pick to just make a small hole right in the middle. Now, you don't want it to be too big. Obviously, if you have another way of doing this, please do that. I'm gonna simply try to just feed the gas in there. There we go. Okay, let me check to see if we got any fuel in there. Well, we have some issues. I've been trying to get gas into the lines, but I noticed that the reason why the gas wasn't actually flowing through the filters is because we have some sort of clog in these two lines. Now, how can we have two clogs? Well, what's happening, and I kind of tested it out already, when I remove these float bowls and I blow into these lines, the flow goes in perfectly. But as soon as I seal these up, the flow stops. I can't let anything in, and the flow bowls are actually empty. So at this point, I'm thinking that either we have some sort of airlock that is not letting gas go into the chamber here, or we have an issue where the floats themselves are getting kind of stuck, and when we press these in, or when we put the bowls in, they somehow push the floats up and close the valve, which I really don't think that that's the case, to be honest, because the floats look like they're hanging the way they're supposed to. So what I think is happening is we have some sort of airlock in here. But if we had an airlock, like the valve here, this should be letting air out so that gas can go in. Because if you notice, if I blow into these, it's not letting any fuel go in. So that means I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna have to take off the carburetors, go through them, and make sure that it is breathing properly. Because without the bowls, it's working great. The air goes in, and then the actual flow closes the flow going in of the gas. So that's working great. But so we have some sort of issue here with the carburetors. Now, that means that we're gonna have to take the carburetors off and kind of go through them. To do that, like I mentioned before, we're gonna have to take off the side covers, the filters, everything else. But I really wanna make sure I get to the bottom of it, so I'm gonna take my time and go through it and make sure that we don't have any bigger issues. But for now, to try to get our bike up and running, I'm gonna go ahead and just manually fill these bowls up and see if we can get the bike to at least start for just a bit. This isn't the recommended way of doing this, but I at least want to see if we can get this bike up and running. And if we can't get it up and running this time around, then we'll just have to wait and get it up and running next time, which is fine. But it kind of sucks because I wanted to get it running fully, and now I have to take stuff off, which I don't like, but sometimes that's just the way things go. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo this side of the carb. Again, the floats are empty. If you see that I'm doing something wrong, please leave it in the comments. You know, I might be doing something wrong, but I checked the carbs. When I was checking the carbs and the bowls, I actually checked them without the float bowls installed. So maybe there's some binding there, but I don't believe that that's the case, to be honest with you. I feel like we have some sort of airlock. I feel that maybe our breathers are not open enough to let air in or something. But I can't quite figure it out just yet. And again, I wasn't expecting to have to figure that out in this video. So maybe we can do it in the next video. All right, so I have some fuel now in the float bowls, and so I'm gonna try to get the bike up and running. Hopefully, it'll kind of sputter at least to try to stay on. I don't know that that'll be the case, but let's go ahead and give it a shot. So I'm gonna put it in choke. I'm gonna put it in the run position here. Turn the battery on. There we go. And let's see if it'll at least turn over. Okay, that's not going. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to check for spark. Let's see if we're getting any spark here. Oh yeah, we got plenty of spark there. Plenty of spark. What I think we're just not getting is fuel. Okay, let me try something. I'm wondering if the air fuel mixture screws have to do with the amount of air that goes into the flow bowls, maybe. Maybe these carburetors are a little different. I don't know. This shouldn't be the case, but you never know. Maybe they're designed a little bit different. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to back those out. Not a very easy task to do. All right, let's see what we get here. Nice. That was that was kind of weird, honestly. That's awesome. Wow, we got the bike up and running. I'll be completely honest with you, that did not sound that great. Why did it sound like that? I don't know if it's the mufflers just kind of getting into their rhythm or whatever, but that did not sound that happy. And, I think the idle was way too high. I wasn't revving it up at all. So I know for sure there must be an issue with the air mixture screw or something. But that's pretty cool, it turned on. Let me try it again. What was that all about? All of a sudden it started idling perfectly. Okay, it ran out of gas in one cylinder or something. All of a sudden it just died off. And uh-oh. Something's sizzling over here. I mean, it might be oil that we're hearing. We'll try it again. It is in the choke position. Yeah, that's out of gas again. That's definitely out of gas. And I know what that means. Well, I don't know what to say. Besides, I need to work on these carbs. The bike turned on, as you can see, it sounded decent. It was popping. I think there's an air-fuel ratio mixture thing happening with the carbs. These are aftermarket carbs. They're not the best. So I need to really go through the carbs and find out what's going on. I did adjust the float levels, but I didn't check the passages, and I should have done that in the past video that we did. But I'm gonna go ahead and go back, make sure that we don't have to adjust the carbs, and see what's going on. As you can see, we got the bike running. It sounded okay. It was backfiring a little bit, which kind of worries me a little bit. And it was revving up really high, and then all of a sudden it just revved down. I think it's because it might have ran out of fuel in one cylinder. So I'm not too sure what's going on, but I feel like this is going to take a little bit more investigating, a little bit more checking. I also want to make sure, now that I got the oil up and maybe circulating in the engine a little bit, I want to go ahead and drop that oil and put some fresh oil in there and kind of inspect that oil just from that little run that we had. But there you have it. I mean, sometimes you're going to run into things like that and you're just going to have to figure it out. In my case, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to remove the side covers, the air filter boxes, the carbs themselves, figure out the jetting and all of that, make sure that that's all correct, and yeah, and see if we can fix it. Now, I was hoping that these were direct replacements. We might just need to tweak with the air fuel ratio, but I guess we'll figure that out. But there you go. It's a short video this week. I do apologize for that. Next week, we'll really dive deep into trying to get this bike up and running, fully up and running, where we can actually go down the road in it. Like I said before, I do want to order that clutch gasket, I guess you could say, so that we can check that clutch and make sure that that's operational, because right now it's not really operating correctly. So yeah, join me next week as I try to tackle all of those things. And thank you all so much for watching.
I don't want to stop at the casino. I don't want to stop and see the broken lights. I want to stay down your broken